time. But that's what you noticed is exactly how you identify them, that you hear two phrases, then they move on to another 2 phrases and another 2 phrases. Whereas the mockingbird does 3 to 4 repetitions, and the catbird usually just does 1. So they're all in the same group of birds. They don't really have a very easily described song other than the way they pair things or don't pair things. Yeah. Cool. That's great. That was Picnic Point. That's a great birding place right now, especially. Let's see.
There's a barred owl right by the entrance too. It wasn't making any noise, but that was
right by that path that starts moving up into the middle of it.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it's a pair. They have a nest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. I saw them the last time I was there. All right, Jackie. I see you heard some different birds, chickadees, orioles, and meadowlark. What's this one that sounded like a witch? Where did you hear that, and what was it?
So I went to Nine Springs.
Okay.
Yesterday, and it's the first time that I've actually walked around all the ponds. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that place. I couldn't believe all the birds that I saw. And then there was the lady there with her 2 young kids, and she was birding with them. The kids were carrying binoculars, and she had her camera. And I said, "That's really cool that you guys bird together." And she said that she's teaching from home right now, so it's a way for them to get out also. Okay. And then she said, "Well, if you want, go over to." She said, "I know there's a Sora here somewhere," and I'm like, okay, but I had already been walking around for 2 hours and I didn't want to go look for it. And she said, "It sounds like a witch cackling." And I said, "I heard that sound and I thought it was some kids goofing off or something. I had no idea it was a bird, but I didn't go look for it."
So you don't have a recording, Jackie, do you?
I do not.
Okay, let's quickly listen to that, because that is a really cool sound. We haven't really talked about those kind of birds for this. That's one of them. There's another great one. That's my favorite.
I think that's more what I might have heard.
So a Sora is well, do you know what it is, Jackie? You want to describe it?
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Except for the picture that you just pulled up.
It's a small rail. So if you've heard of clapper rails, which are threatened and endangered in certain places, they're marsh birds. They call them rails because if you look at them straight on, they're kind of thin. They just kind of wander in between vegetation on the marshes. They're pretty secretive. They're hard to find. So oftentimes it's what you hear more than anything. And Soras in particular are little guys. They're maybe the size of a robin. Maybe it's a little smaller than a robin. So can of soda, 12-ounce can of soda basically, and they're slender. And they make that great sound coming out of a marsh. So if you ever hear that whinny, they call it a whinny call, kind of a horse whinny almost, but obviously much higher pitched. That's a Sora. It's very distinctive.
I saw a number of birds there, but they weren't making a lot of sounds. But the killdeer wasn't making any sounds. I was really surprised, but I saw 2 babies. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, they're adorable. All right, we got a couple of people who said they have recordings, which is great. We'll try to get to you guys. Susan, tell us about the crazy calls you heard at Tenney Park. Susan, are you?
Hi, sorry, I'm cooking dinner in the background. Just I don't.
That's okay.
Yeah, it was just I had never really noticed their call before. I'd seen them there, and I don't know if it was like defending its territory or something, because it was making the call at a couple Canada geese.
Okay.
So I was approaching them and just making like a crazy, it sounded like a dinosaur. is kind of how I pick. I mean, I guess I've never heard a dinosaur, but it sounded like what dinosaurs sound like in the movies.
Yeah, yeah, right. They probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't use the sound to create the dinosaurs.
Oh yeah,
sounds.
I was like, oh my God, exactly like Jurassic Park or something.
Yeah. Well, I know when Lucas was making the sound of Chewbacca, he went to all kinds of zoos and wildlife safari places, and he recorded all these animal sounds and sort of blended them together. I think he had some seal calls and some other stuff, lions, and he just all mashed it together. So yeah, I'm sure they use sandhill cranes. We'll give it a listen here. Am I sharing actually?
Not yet.
Sort of an odd one. That's more what I'm used to, yeah. So yeah, it's very sort of ancient. It's an ancient sound. We heard last year, I don't know if some of you were here, do you remember there was one that also sounded a bit like a dinosaur? I think maybe Jim, you had it in your group. It was another big wading bird. Anybody remember? The great blue heron call. It's just, yeah, it's just, it just sounds like something.
It does not sound like a bird. It sounds like something out of the wild that's coming chasing after you. That is
yeah.
I can probably find that sound and play it real quick if you want.
Yeah, why don't you take a look for it, and then in the meantime, let's see, Steve, are you able to play your recording? Were you able to figure out?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a few, but here's I think the first one I heard. Can you hear that? A lot of noise.
Yeah. That's
probably
definitely
the most elaborate song I heard.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it was at the entrance to the subdivision next to a pond with an aeration pump running and a busy road. So it was like incredibly noisy. But I was close enough that the bird came through pretty loud on it.
Well, you'll see that I had the same problem when the first day I did recordings. I was over at Olin Park, and it was early morning rush hour on John Nolan Drive.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how you don't realize how noisy your neighborhood is until you record it and play it back.
It's true. Yeah, I think we're able to filter out sounds for the most part that we don't want to hear. All right, that's great. All right, so let's see. On that note, let me go ahead and I'm going to play a few of my recordings, and then we'll listen to those, and then we'll come back and get a few more of you guys to play some of your recordings. So the idea is, I think we tried this before we got on, but you can sort of, if you have an iPhone that you recorded, an iPad, you can just hold the speakers up to the mic on the PC or computer you're using, or I have an earpiece, you can put it up to the mic on that. And it won't be perfect, but we'll get a good idea like we did with Steve. Any questions before we listen to some sounds that I recorded? A couple new messages. Oh, what was Steve recordings? Baltimore Oriole. Yes. And Becky answered. So yeah, that was the Baltimore Oriole. Males come in and start singing pretty early. Although I think I saw a female building a nest already too at Pheasant Branch, which is really cool. All right, so I'm going to share this. We're going to just have a picture of where I was, and I'll play some of the recordings. This first, as I mentioned, the first place I recorded was Olin Turville Park over there off the Beltline and near Alliance Center. It's got a great sort of densely wooded area, which is where this picture I'm showing here is from. There's some, I guess, what are those, violets or something on the ground, and then there's sort of a mixture of hardwoods and shrubs and ground cover, low ground cover. There's also a little prairie, circular prairie in the middle that they've restored to some degree. So it's a nice mix of habitats. And then of course you're right on the water. You're at Monona, Lake Monona and Turville Bay are right there. So there's some ducks and some other stuff. I had terns, a couple of terns, which are just coming through. So it was cool. So what I'm gonna do is play a little bit of this first place, and then yesterday I went to a different place, so we'll hear some from both. This is about 3 minutes long. I'll kind of skip through if there's a lot of blank spots, but see if you can, again, like we did with the dawn chorus, just kind of listen and kind of get a sense of how many different species you're hearing, and we'll kind of discuss it. Everyone hear this? There's some wind, obviously. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'll keep going, but did everyone hear that sort of pure note in the background that just sounds like two notes, one's lower, one's higher, and the higher one, it just keeps going? Anyone know what that is? Anyone heard that before? I don't think we've discussed it.
Is it a black-capped chickadee?
It sounds really similar. That's an excellent guess. The black-capped chickadee tends to go the opposite direction. It tends to go.
Oh, like a swing.
Yeah, but they do vary. And so sometimes they'll go up, but most of the time they go down. And this one tends to go up. But it has a lot of syllables in those last bits. And the mnemonic phrase is usually Old Sam Peabody, Peabody, Peabody. Or, oh, sweet Canada, Canada, Canada.
Oh, the white-throated sparrow?
Yeah, that's the white-throated sparrow. So I think you'll hear it throughout a lot of these recordings. You can just listen again here. Here it is. So that was sweet, sweet, sweeter and sweet. Steve, you recognize that in the background? There's an Oriole singing in the background there. So the one that is sort of in the foreground there, it's a high-pitched, quick song. Sweet, 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 sweeter and sweet. Does anyone remember that mnemonic? We had it in the presentation, I think, or at least we talked about it. I don't know if we actually played it this year. It's a small bird. That one. That was it again. And that was the Oriole there. Oh, did you hear that little harsh note? that's the Oriole call. It's a, I'll back it up just a bit. Listen to the pure notes off in the distance where the Oriole's singing. It's up in the top of the trees, and then listen to that rough kind of ching ching. Right there. And then that little rattly sound was also the Oriole call. That sort of chortle. All right, anybody recognize that? It started with a clear, and then it did flicka, 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 flicka.
Is that a northern flicker?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I didn't before you gave the hint too, but that's which one we've had around us a lot. I've gotten to know.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that's where their name comes from. Although that was a little slightly different than the flicker call that they make sometimes. But yeah, it's kind of a long, drawn out call. I'll back it up a bit here again. Oops. That's the start. Clear. And
it makes me think of something you might hear in a jungle, or like in a movie with birds in a jungle.
Right.
It's kind of get that impression. It's not like a bird you'd hear around here. It's more like a jungle bird.
Right. Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, and a good way to remember it too. If you're familiar with the pileated woodpecker, they have a slightly similar call, but it's a little more resonant. It's more of a, how would you describe it? More of a horn-like call, and it's usually a little shorter. They tend to be in denser wood, so it sounds a little more echoey, typically. So that's one you can try to compare if you ever get a chance to hear a pileated calling. Got the Oriole singing still. For much of this, the yellow warbler is still singing in the background. Sweet, 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 and sweet. Okay, let's see. So there was another bird there. I don't know if anybody heard something a little different. But it was far enough away that I didn't want to necessarily try to point it out, but there's a song sparrow singing in there as well. So we had a number of different birds. The Oriole stands out, the yellow warbler stands out for sure, and the white-throated sparrow stand out. Now, I wanted to go, let's go to this one here. This one's a shorty. This is a minute long. See if you can hear at least 4 different species in this one. Here we go. What do you think? there's some familiar birds that we've talked about. Anyone here, anything that stands out, that something that we've heard before or something you know? Let's see. The one that was singing for the most of that bit was the gray catbird. Did anyone recognize that? That was the one. Remember we talked about the thrasher and how the thrasher has these paired phrases, and you can't necessarily recognize any individual phrase again because it may not repeat them, but it always does pairs. Well, the catbird essentially does single notes or single phrases and just keeps changing it up. So that's kind of how you tell a catbird. They do all these kind of jumbled sounds and cackles and notes and pure notes and rough notes. And yeah, and then of course they've got their typical cat meow sound, which is a call, not a song, but they'll sometimes throw that in the middle of a song. I'm pretty sure we hear that in some other recordings. I'm gonna play, let's see. I'm gonna play this one here. This one has, I wrote down 3 different, this is again about 40 seconds. There should be at least 3 prominent species in this one. Let's listen to this one. So the main one there, anybody recognize that one? You can just speak up.
I thought I heard something that sounded like a phoebe, or at least the phoebe I've heard in my backyard.
Yeah, the whistle.
Yes.
Did you hear something else?
No, they sound like they say Phoebe.
Okay.
Phoebe.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was, we talked about this earlier, that whistle that we're hearing throughout is the black-capped chickadee song.
Oh.
So we're also hearing the call there, dee. Right there. They're saying their name.
And I was reading when they do that high-pitched one, it's like, hey, sweetie, sweetie.
Yeah. Some people say sweetie. Some people say cheeseburger.
Oh.
And then other people say Phoebe. So yeah, whatever sticks in your craw, whatever works best, just use that. But they have a very, very simple, distinct song, and you'll hear it kind of all day long. So it's kind of nice. You'll recognize it hopefully as the summer goes on. And then I think there was a robin in the background, also an oriole. Robin's quite far. That was the oriole there. Okay. So let's go back to you guys. Just make sure any of these questions. Bluebells, blue flowers, maybe bluebells. Thank you. Yeah, I was not aware. I'm not very good with local fauna, so those blue flowers. There was yellow warbler, blue jay, chickadee. Yeah, awesome. So let's see. I want to see if anybody else who had a recording is able to share it with us. Jackie, we heard yours, right? No, you talked about the Sora, but you said you have a short recording. Did you want to try to play that for us?
And that
Okay.
was the real short recording of the Oriole that I had.
Oh, that was the one. Okay, you did play that
Yeah,
for us.
that's
Okay,
all I had.
that's right. Hildy, recordings from your backyard. Do you have anything that you think you might be able to share?
I do. The only thing is it's on the same computer that I'm using. So
Oh,
because that was the only device I had that actually recorded decently.
You on a computer or are you on a computer or a phone?
I'm on a computer on a laptop.
So you can probably share your screen, and if you can play it, you can share. You can teach how to share your screen if you want.
Okay, hold on. So would I just click on the share screen?
Yeah.
I
Jean,
made her a co-host, so I just did that.
Okay.
Okay.
Click on share screen, and then there's going to be a checkbox that says share sounds. You got to make sure you check that checkbox.
Lower left corner of the
Got
window.
that. Okay, and then say share.
Yep. There you
there
go.
it is.
Okay, so let me go find. So I took one file in the morning, and I think and then two around 11 o'clock, and then two at around 5 o'clock. And I believe a robin features prominently in them, but there's other sounds that I don't know what they are. So hold on for a second. I tried to record them when I didn't get any road noise, which was a bit of a challenge. Oops. Great. Hold on for a second. Oh, shoot. The screen for the chat is like... let me do something for a second. The chat screen is displaying right over the index of my computer for me to get at the file. So I'm going to have to stop sharing for a second so I can get my screen back.
Caitlin, what is PlantNet? While we're waiting.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I just have some like planty friends who told me about it, and I used it a couple times, and it's like pretty accurate. Like it works well. So I don't know like anything about plants really, but it seemed to work pretty well when I used it, which was also on like my laptop at the point.
Cool.
Something else.
That just not working?
No, I think I just solved that. So just
You solved it, okay.
Oh, except no, we have a cat. So hold on. Sorry about this. Okay, share screen. Let's get that out of the way. Here we go. So here's the one in the morning. Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
So I think that the one in the front is the robin, but then there is that other one in the background, that one, choo, 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 choo. I don't know what that one is. I don't know if that was probably a very good representation of it.
I think I heard that I heard there was like house sparrows, I think, chirping. I missed the other one.
I think there was a cardinal in the background too.
Was it cardinal?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next one, here's the first one. Oh, sorry. That was when someone was doing something with their lawn. So I think that was primarily the robin again.
Yeah. How would you describe the robin sound? There's that typical mnemonic phrase for it, but doesn't always fit.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. My cat isn't always well behaved. Hold on. Come on, get down. I don't know what my mnemonic is. Sorry, I'm new to this kind of stuff. And I don't remember the mnemonics.
Oh no, I was wondering how you would describe it.
Oh, how I would describe it?
Yeah.
I would just describe it, by like the length and sound of the chirps. Because it just sounds chirpy to me, and like whether there's like a short one or a long one and the space in between.
Yeah. And that's such a typical sign of sound of spring too, that we're probably all pretty familiar with that song, whether we knew what it was or not.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Hildy.
Thanks.
So you can just hit the stop share.
Yep, I will do that.
All right, let's see. Let's see, did Bonnie, are you there? Bonnie, you have a recording you want to share with us from your backyard, you said?
Yep, I've got it. I'm going to try to play it on my phone and hopefully you can hear it.
Okay. What time of day was it?
5 a.m. 5 a.m.
Ooh, okay.
Can you hear it?
It's pretty faint. Do you know, you holding it up to where the mic is? Do you know? Are you using a PC or something else?
I've got it on my phone. I'm trying to play it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's pretty faint.
Pretty faint, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but we're pretty sure that we saw cardinals, red-winged blackbirds. What else?
What kind of habitat is this area that you recorded it in?
We're in New Glarus, kind of in a wood line. We've got some woods right behind us.
Oh, great.
Big trees.
Yeah, I thought I heard a cardinal, maybe robin, which would make sense.
Yeah, we have those daily, all the time.
Morning dove, yeah, yeah. Chickadees, okay, cool. Excellent. Looks like Becky said the white-throated sparrows are singing in her neighborhood. How about one of the other possibilities you could do and think about last week was a spark bird. Does anybody have a particular bird that really kind of inspires them, or they've always been interested in, or always been love to see them or hear them?
I have one I can share. The cedar waxwings. I just love them. They sound like they're from outer space, and they're so beautiful, and I love watching them.
How would you describe their sound?
I just think of oh, does it sound like creatures from outer space? And if the answer is yes, then I'm like, oh, I think there's cedar waxwings around here.
And can you be a little more specific about what the sound sounds like?
I don't know, because
it's just whatever. Yeah,
I'm really bad at sounds that way, like remembering them. So maybe like just like a really soft kind of cheepy peepy kind of sound, but very soft. I don't know.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
That's a great description, actually. It's a very soft, high, it almost sounds like you're not quite hearing it. Like sometimes you hear, it's so high that you feel like, am I actually hearing something, or is it just the tinnitus in my ear?
Right.
Here, I'll play a call here.
Yeah,
you want to hear that?
Yeah, that's nice.
That it sort of kind of burrows into your head because it's so high pitched. It's hard to tell where it's coming from. You just hear it, and you kind of look around. Okay, there's got to be cedar waxwings around.
Yeah,
almost sounds like a mouse.
Yeah, right. It's almost like rodent-like. Yeah. That's a great one. That's a great one.
And I just think they're just so beautiful. It's just like looking at a painting, you know. It's just there's something about the way that their texture is that I just think they're just wonderful. And then they're always like in these groups, and they're always eating berries, and they just always look like they're beautiful and having a great time. They're like the movie stars of the bird world for me.
They are very elegant. Yeah. They have very dense, short feathers on their body. And I've had the luck of being able to handle a few of them, wild ones that we caught. And it's like fur. It feels like fur.
Really?
It doesn't feel like feathers. It's so soft and so dense. They're really stunning birds, and that sound is so distinctive. And you're right, they often are in big groups, 10, 15, 20 or more. They're cool. Anybody else how about, if it's not a spark bird, maybe it's a Steve. I see your hand. Go for it.
About a year ago, I took a class on bird sound, just as my first introduction. Actually, this is my second introduction, I guess, this one. And one of the birds that they talked about was a dickcissel. I'd never heard of a dickcissel. And the way it was described, it was kind of it's not a very common bird in Wisconsin. You find it in grasslands, maybe out closer to Madison or Spring Green area. I live near Milwaukee. So I thought, maybe someday I'll see one. There's a nature preserve near my house that's got a large grassland. And a group of my buddies were out walking like last May, early June. And all of a sudden I heard this bird. It was, again, not heard that bird before, but I have. And it's like, there's something familiar about that bird. And it turned out there were dickcissels. There were quite a few dickcissels in this nature preserve.
It was a grassland area, you said?
Yeah. A lot of it is a grassland right now. They're trying to restore a forest, but they're about 130 years away from getting that done now. So, but it's a farmland that they've converted. They're restoring back. It's a place called Mequon Nature Preserve. It's just outside of, just north of Milwaukee. It's kind of a cool, if you're ever in this part of the country, or as part of the state, I mean, it's a big place. It's a great bird place too. And so because they got woods and they got grasslands and stuff. So we, none of the other group guys in my group had never even heard of it, but it kind of, and what caught me is its sound is kind of like Dick, Dick, Dick Sissel. It's kind of like it's saying its name.
Yep.
You know, and then once, you know, they were just perched on the top of trees. The males were just calling out like crazy in like, you know, May, June.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were there, you know, we went there. I think for 6 weeks in a row, I could find them on almost the same tree every time I went there.
They're really cool. You can see them and hear them at Mackenzie Nature. It's off of what's that?
Poinet, is it?
It's not far from here. It's off of TT and the interstate going towards Milwaukee. Maybe about a 15-minute drive from the edge of town. And they have Dick Sissels, they have Henslow sparrows in this prairie area. And it's really fun to hear them because I'll play a clip of them because they're just like Steve says, they say their name. This one's kind of doing a weird thing. I bet you this recording's better. That's better. So they are in the cardinal family, which is interesting because they're about the size of a sparrow, big, thick bills like cardinals, seed eaters, and they're grassland birds essentially. So it's kind of interesting that you find these birds in the cardinal family right out in the open grasslands like this. So yeah, that's a great example, Steve. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else got a bird that?
The recording that Jenny sent, who wasn't able to be here.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Jenny and her husband John weren't able to join us tonight, but they sent a recording. And I'll just show the picture of, I don't know where they exactly were, but I'll show the Olin slide while I'm doing it. It's about 2 minutes. Let's see, here we go. Jenny and John from May 2nd. So Sunday morning. Be quiet. So I'm going to stop about halfway. There's a couple of birds that are pretty prominent there. There's one that is kind of a jumbled sound. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I think it's right in the beginning. Maybe not. There it is. So right about here. We had a great description of what that reminded somebody of last year. That's the house wren singing. Let's see if we can hear it again. Right there. It's just a lot of quick, fast notes. that sort of reminded this person last year of someone rewinding a tape, like a audio tape. So it was backwards, sound of a tape being played backwards quickly. Right there. Again. And then the one that's loudest is the cardinal background there. Right there. Pretty, 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 pretty. There was the house wren again. One thing that's interesting about cardinals is their songs can be quite different from place to place. So this one's kind of unique, this particular song that we're listening to, the cardinal. I haven't heard it quite that way in other places, but there's a certain tone that's it's a very pure note, and there's often that sort of ended with the pretty, 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 pretty. Blue jays.
Is there a titmouse in there too?
I don't know. It might. Well, it's possible. I'm not hearing it, but they do that. Peter, 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 Peter.
Yeah,
Is that what
I
you're
thought I
thinking?
heard it and the cardinal both, but
Oh, at the
it was
same
also
time?
pretty loud. Yeah, but I'm not sure. They can sound so similar.
Let me back it. Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the one in the background is a titmouse. That's a great call.
Is it the one that's kind of going like beep, beep, beep?
Yep.
Beep?
Yeah.
It sounds a lot like a cardinal, but it doesn't have as much variation.
Right, and often there's two notes. It's a Peter, 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 but sometimes you'll just hear Pete, 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 or so it's a little tough sometimes to distinguish. That's an excellent you picked that out.
Well, I wasn't positive, so I'm glad to have you verify it.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. Yep. Yeah, they're singing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We also have chickadees calling and the jays. Oh.
What's that?
Yeah, that was what I was waiting for. So let's listen for that little it's about 5 notes in the background, a little buzzy right there. Easy Zuzi. Zuzi. Anybody that was in my group on Saturday, I think we had that, or Thursday too, we had this particular bird. Zuzi. It was one of the paired species that we compared with another in this group. They're warblers. This is a warbler. And since I'm not hearing any guesses, this is the black-throated green warbler. So that's that typical song, zee, 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 zoo, zee, kind of ends on a little high emphatic note. Right there. So that was a cool, when I listened to it the first time, I was like, I think you've got a black-throated green in there. And they're a migrant species that is moving through right now. Chickadee, chickadee. Yeah, so that was a great little recording.
Carrie, I've got the great blue heron if you want to do that.
Oh yeah, let's play that. So this is a favorite from last season's. Did I stop share?
Yep.
Okay.
Mute space. Speech on demand.
There it is. That's actually a bird. And Jim, actually, while you have yours open, a couple about 4 or 5 down is the house wren song.
Oh yeah.
You want to play that one so we can hear it a little closer up? So that's the sound of a tape being rewound backwards, according to. I just love that description. So you could sort of hear it in that recording we got from Jenny and John. But it's it's often a little harder to tell when it's that distant. But all right. So why don't I play? There's another section I got from Olin Park. How are we doing on time? 7:15. Where this was a little deeper into the park, and it was also a little closer to the water, and there was a lot more variety of vegetation. So it was a pretty birdy spot, and there was one particular pair of birds that showed up that was really fun to listen to. So that one is 5627. It's a long one, and I'll probably move through it as I get a little closer. Oh, that's a good one to listen to. Okay, so we've got yellow warblers again, so hopefully those are starting to sink in. That's that sweet, sweet, sweeter and sweet. It's kind of a sharp whistling song. Sweet, sweet, sweeter and sweet. Gets really fast at the end. But then there was this kind of bubbly, high-pitched sound that kind of goes up, high, 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 kind of whoop. And that's the sound of a male brown-headed cowbird singing. So we'll listen for those as we move through here. There's the background, it's the yellow warbler singing. Right there was the brown-headed cowbird. And that was the yellow warbler. Sweet, 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 and sweet. Again, another one, 2 of them. From Orioles. Skip ahead a little bit. I think we have a yellow warbler there. Now we're hearing there's a bird that sounds a little bit like a robin, but the notes are a little more pure. They're not as warbly, and they're a little. I always describe them as a little pinched. It sounds like it's the vocal cords are a little pinched. Right here. Again, that's the rose-breasted grosbeak thingy. We'll get another sound of it. the grosbeak singing again. So there were actually 2 male grosbeaks singing real close to each other in this area. One appeared to be a younger male, like a second-year male. It didn't have the full black cap. But they were both singing and they weren't too far from each other. So it was interesting to see them not trying to scare the other one off the territory. I thought they would be battling over the territory, but let's see. Here's another little further up. There's another bird coming up. Let's see if you recognize this. Way in the background. What was that? There was a red-bellied woodpecker in the far off in the distance, just doing its chortle. Everyone recognized the blue jays? There were about half a dozen that they were just flying around the park all morning. Just making a ruckus. Oh, that was a good one. So, did you hear that really sharp note there? I'll play it again. Pretty close. Right there. We didn't really go over this in the class, but this is the call of the rose-breasted grosbeak. And does anyone who might have been in last year's class remember how we described that? I think it's a good way for me at least, to remember that.
If you were in my group last week, I think we talked about this as one as well.
Oh, you did? Okay. Let me play it one more time. Right there, that just really quick, sharp note. Ching. So this, for a long time, I didn't really know. This is an eastern bird, and I was out west, and I didn't know it very well. When I moved back, somebody described the call to me as sounding like a tennis shoe on a basketball court. And I think that's a perfect description of it. And while the recording might not do it justice, if you hear a tennis shoe on a basketball court when you're in the woods, you probably just heard a rose-breasted grosbeak call. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the song. Much closer now. There's the yellow warbler closer too. Sweet, 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 and sweet. So just the key with the grosbeak is it sort of sounds like a robin again. So that, I think somebody described how they sort of thought of certain sounds reminded them of other birds, but they knew they weren't that bird. So again, it's sort of this process of elimination. You can say, it makes me think of the robin, but I know it's not the robin. So maybe it's the grosbeak, that kind of stuff. It's sort of how my brain sometimes works. And it's just it's a more, again, it's a more precise, pinched off note. Maybe robins tend to have this warbly, fluty sound when they're singing. It's a different timbre. Okay, so let's go a little further ahead. I think there's a catbird that we can listen to again. There it is. Two of them. So the cat, that's the call. Jays in the background. We're also, throughout, we're hearing yellow rump warblers singing, possibly palm warblers singing, and it's a little, their sound's a little different. It's a little hard to hear, so I'm pointing that out, but it's kind of a languid warble in the background. Baltimore Orioles just saying. There. So you can hear there's a lot going on, and this is, like we've talked a bit about the morning chorus, the dawn chorus, and how it can be a little overwhelming. But Steve was talking about this, and a couple of you mentioned that as you start to recognize birds and are able to recognize them pretty well, then you can start eliminating those. You can say like, well, I know it's not this, I know it's not this, and it just becomes that much easier to try to separate out all these sounds. All right, so how are we doing? Anybody that we haven't heard from want to talk about anything that they noticed over the week, or a spark bird, or if you have a recording that you think you might want to share?
We could check in with Becky and Caitlin to see how their weekend birding has been.
Yeah, tell us. So you guys work for Madison Audubon, is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm the director of philanthropy for Madison Audubon, but spent many years of my career prior to this doing bird surveys, mainly in grasslands and wetlands. And I started this position in the pandemic, but it's a great organization and an exciting one to work for. So I haven't actually gotten out much yet, but I did comment on the white-throated sparrows because I have never in my memory been aware of so many white-throated sparrows in town at once. So I can pretty much say that probably all of you have them in your backyard right now. I have had them in my yard for 3 or 4 days singing from the maple, and I live on the Near East Side, very, but so they're here in full force. And then I live right by the Yahar River, a whole lot of warblers hanging out there, a bunch of chestnut-sided warblers, and kind of the usual. But I've never seen a year like this for white-throated sparrows, and they have an easy song to learn. So, and they're just gorgeous. So I encourage you to see if maybe you hear them, because I've been hearing them as I walk my dog all over singing.
Yeah.
So.
I agree. There's a lot right now. I've run into them everywhere I've gone, and they're almost always, you scatter a dozen of them when you walk by a brushy area. Suddenly they're like all flying away.
And I don't remember that many at once before. Just kind of staying too. They've been here all week, and they're in the garden and up in the trees, and so that's just my kind of. I've been really excited to see so many of them.
Why don't I play that song from a recording, because I think it might be easier to hear than some of the stuff I've been sharing. So this is, again, the white-throated sparrow. It's a migratory sparrow. They are size of our regular house sparrows, little bird, mostly brown and tan and gray, but they have a bright white throat that's very defined. And they have usually a little patch of bright yellow right between their eye and their bill. And then they usually have black or brown stripes on their heads. So they're pretty distinctive, and they have a really, really distinctive song. So that's what people often say is old Sam Peabody, 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 or old sweet Canada, Canada. They do end up, a lot of them up in Canada. So I think that's where that comes from. But yeah, really, really distinctive, interesting, and beautiful sparrow with a lovely, lovely song. So keep your ears open for that. Like Becky said, they're probably in your neighborhood, and you might hear them when you wake up tomorrow morning, singing away.
You can also usually see them pretty closely too. They're pretty easy to see just with the naked eye, and you can see the yellow and white pretty easily.
Yeah.
And Andrea and Caitlin had a slightly different take on their song. I'll let them tell it. And you have to unmute yourselves.
Yeah, sorry, it took me a minute to find the button. Yeah, I said it sounded kind of like "Oh Christmas Tree" to me. I think just because maybe not the pitch is not exactly right, but that's sort of that "Oh Christmas Tree."
Oh yeah, right.
That's good.
And I would say for me, it kind of sounds a little bit like "Here Comes the Bride."
Yeah. So those are awesome, and probably more easier to remember than the "Oh Sweet Canada." How either of you guys, Caitlin or Andrea or anybody else who we haven't heard from, have anything they want to share about birds they've noticed or things they've seen over the last couple of weeks, a couple of days?
Sure, I can just talk real quick.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I managed to get out over the weekend, and really the main birds that I was really hyped to start seeing were my first warblers of the year. I haven't gotten out much this spring, so that was great to have a couple of red starts, couple black-throated greens, and then also too the catbirds. It's always feels like such a nice time when they show up again. It's it's always lovely to hear them back kind of in the chorus, so that's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they're cool. They're really interesting birds. Cool, thank you. And warblers are definitely here. They can be challenging to break down the sounds, but they are they're such unique birds. They're a lot of them are long distance. Many of them are long distance migrants, and so they're coming up, and they'll keep going. A lot of them up into boreal Canada is where many of them breed in this vast wilderness up there. All right, well, speaking of warblers, it's about 7:30. Why don't I do a few more clips from the Pheasant Branch recordings that I got yesterday morning. It was a gorgeous sunny morning, cold when I got there, but it was well worth it. I was there for about 3 hours and got some good warbler recordings.
Carrie, can I ask a quick question about
Sure.
what time of the morning is the best time to go there?
To Pheasant Branch?
Yep.
Or anywhere. I would say around 7 a.m. was good. It was pretty cold, so I might have even gone earlier if it was warmer, but it was fairly cold. So a lot of these birds that are here now are insect eaters. So the warm, early morning, if it's too cold, the insects aren't going to be particularly active. So the birds might not be particularly active either. So yeah, 7 a.m. seems good.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, to be earlier. I was down there, I don't know, maybe late last week, maybe early this week, I don't remember, but I didn't get there till like 8:30. But so many of them, like you said, the bugs are out, but they were so high in the trees.
Oh yeah.
So it's hard to follow them looking up at the sky and stuff.
Well, that's where the listening comes in, because
Yeah,
a lot of these birds are very difficult to see because they're high up or they're in the bushes. So that's where learning their songs can help you pick them out much faster and sometimes more accurately.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting. All right, so this particular set of recordings started earlier, like I said, on Pheasant Branch. It's the creek corridor portion, so it's between Century and essentially Parmenter. It runs along the creek, and it's just a really lovely walk, and tons of birds right now. So this was early in the morning yesterday. That one we're hearing closer is the one I'm sort of targeting here. Should be coming up again. Right there. So one of the things, I've been learning this bird recently because it's a fairly unfamiliar bird to me. It's more common in the Midwest, and since I'm back here now, it's a little easier to see during migration. But I think I finally figured it out over this early migration season. And what you listen for are these three sets of different sounds. So let's hear it again. Listen for three different types of sounds in groups. And it kind of starts slow, and then it picks up in each successive group, it sounds like. Right there. And when you hear that, those three, like chick, 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 chick. So there's these three different types of singing, the rhythms, and then and together that's the song of the northern water thrush, which is a type of warbler. Yeah, even though the name doesn't make it sound like it, it likes moving along water courses. Water thrushes, northern water thrushes, can be found in ponds and open water, but the other water thrush species, the Louisiana, is often found along running streams, more often found along running streams. Now this one was on the stream, and it was singing quite right out there in public. It was a really great look at it too. Yeah. That was it again. You have cardinal in the background and robin in the background. It could be. There's the water thrush again. Again. So that was really exciting for me because I felt like I finally had nailed it down. It was right there I could see it, so I could identify that it was definitely in Louisiana or northern and not Louisiana. And the sound all made sense based on descriptions I've read. So then I moved up a little further, and let's see. Let's play this one, because this one, this was another warbler species that is relatively rare again for me. It's sort of a Midwestern specialty. It's called the golden wing warbler. And what you want to listen for, and it's not going to be particularly loud, but what you want to listen for is sort of a buzzy song. It's sort of a mixture of notes and just really kind of buzzy sounds combined. And it hasn't done it yet. There we go. Did you hear that? There it is. Sorry about the truck backing up. There was a good one. Let's play that again. Listen right here. Right there. There it is again. So that real buzzy bzz, 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 is the golden winged warbler singing. And then along with that, there were some white-throated sparrows in the background. Of course, we had the silly heavy machinery backing up. There were some mallards. There was a Nashville warbler singing, which is seedle, 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 say, say, say. That's how their song goes. And then we heard a little bit of a red-bellied woodpecker call. Let's see if I can find that again. That was that quick chortle sound, really deep, a deeper chortling sound. Wing warbler, golden. There it is. So that thing in the background, right there, that's the red-bellied woodpecker. That's the fairly large woodpecker, maybe the size of like a pint glass or something like that. And they're striped on their back, and they have a red crown and nape, and they make some pretty cool sounds. Okay, let's see. There was also, there was blue-gray gnatcatcher in there, but that's also a buzzy sound. It's not a great recording. Blue-gray gnatcatchers also have a real high-pitched sort of buzzy sound, sort of insect-like. Where was my, the northern parula. I also had a northern parula a little earlier. Let's see if we can hear that quickly. That is also a buzzy sound, but it's kind of quick and it kind of rises rapidly. Let's see if we can hear that. White-throated sparrow singing. There it is. Sorry about that. Setting the iPad down. You hear that buzziness? Right there. Right there. So you can tell it's not quite the same as that last one, but they have a similar quality, and it tends to be more rapid and rises more quickly. This is a little bit of a variation on their typical song, which is more like a quick rising, rapid crescendo, like a tremolo of buzzes. And this one's doing a slightly different thing here. But that's another type of warbler, migratory warbler, little tiny guy, and he was singing away. Okay, so running out of time, I'll play a few more quick ones. This one was fun because, in part because, well, I'll let you tell me what you think this is. I just had to record this. So there is mostly that
Sounds like a
background.
green frog.
That's what I was wondering, what people think that was. It was definitely an amphibian. I could never see them, but I can't confirm it. I don't know their calls very well. I did look it up and listen to some different ones. I had a guess, but maybe some people know their frogs and toads better than I did.
I didn't hear what the other guess was, but a tree frog?
It sounds like green. It sounds like a green frog.
Green frog. Okay.
I think they're toads, maybe.
American toads. That was my guess.
Yeah.
Too, because we have toads as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was scanning all the websites trying to find different audio files and trying to figure out what that was. It was a lot of fun, actually. It's a whole new class. We like frog and toad sounds. And all right, so another quick minute long here, and there's a flicker that makes a good sound near the end of it. I'll kind of skip ahead, I think. Blue jay and robin. Cardinal. That's the cardinal scene. So there's a real soft chip note that we're hearing. I'll play that again. Listen, real soft. It's a call, so it's not going to be arrhythmic, but listen for a real soft chip here. Right there. We had that call in one of our groups. I can't remember if it was mine or somebody else's, but it's the call chip note of a yellow-rumped warbler. And although it doesn't sound like much on this recording, unfortunately, it usually can sound fairly distinctive compared to other chip notes from warblers. It's louder, it's a little more harsh. And if you hear enough of them, oftentimes there's a lot of yellow-rumped warblers together, so you can start to pick out that chip note as they're foraging. They make that note a lot. There's a flicker calling in the background there, northern flicker. Robin. Another warbler chip there. Okay. Well, I'd say that about does it for my recordings. Did anyone have particular questions about it, or particular questions about listening, or where to go, or other things, maybe tech questions that Jim can answer?
I just had one. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask where all the warblers are going. Do they just go to northern Wisconsin or do they go into Canada?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking just individuals, most of them are going to move further north. But we do have a number of species that breed down here. You can see chestnut-sided all year, yellow. You can see common yellowthroats, things like that will stick around. Cerulean warblers are in southern Wisconsin. You can see them over at Kettle Moraine pretty easily and Wyalusing. So there's definitely a lot of good places to see warblers, but yeah, the vast majority of the individuals keep going further north. And some species, they don't stick around, they go way north.
I would also add that a lot of warblers breed in the Baraboo Hills area. So a lot of the properties, Nature Conservancy properties in the Baraboo Hills, for example, have lots of breeding warblers. Good place to see them.
So where in Baraboo would that be? Like what
Well,
kind?
like Hemlock Draw, some of the Nature Conservancy preserves there. Let's see.
Are those public, Becky?
They are, okay. Yeah. And there's a book called The Breeding Birds of the Baraboo Hills by Mike Mossman. And in there you can find out a lot of the warblers that breed there, because the Baraboo Hills have a lot of what they call interior forest bird habitats. So some of the warblers that require large tracts of woods to nest can be found there. So that's a really good place to go see warblers during the breeding season. Of course, they're harder to see because everything's leafed out than they are now.
True.
But you can hear them.
Mm-hmm. You can still hear them. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So I just wondered if anybody had any ideas for what the bird I've been hearing that is making a rattling noise, and it kind of looked like a sparrow, but I couldn't see it very well. And to me, it just sounded like a rattle. Does anyone know what that might be? And I don't think it's around all year. And it was sitting in a tree singing. So,
you don't live near water, do you?
A couple blocks away from Monona Bay.
I mean, the first thing I thought was a kingfisher, but it doesn't sound, the size is wrong, and it wouldn't necessarily be inland like that. Okay.
And I did see it, but not very well. It just kind of looked like a sparrow to me. It just had a white breast and kind of sparrow shaped. No? Okay.
Sorry.
I'll keep working on that one.
Get a recording.
Yeah. Try that.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody
I just wondered if it could be something like a chipping. I wouldn't necessarily say as a rattle, but was it sort of a high rattle?
Yeah. And what did you say? You cut out for a second. You think it might be what?
Maybe a chipping sparrow. I wouldn't call it a rattle,
but chipping sparrow. Okay. I'll listen to that and see if
do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would call that a dry trill.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can play it right now. We can play it.
Okay.
See if
that would be good.
See if you think that sounds right. Oops, not that one. But yeah, I usually think of that as a real dry trill.
Yeah.
Chipping sparrow. There's something compared to something like the dark-eyed junco, which has a more melodic trill. This is a real dry sounding.
Yeah, definitely not a junco.
Was it on the ground?
No, it was in a tree, just by itself in a tree.
And that's typical of chipping sparrows, and they're definitely around Madison right now.
Yeah, I think that is it.
That's probably it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, they're singing away all throughout the area right now. They're little birds. I mean, it's a small sparrow. It's smaller than most of the other sparrows around right now, and certainly smaller than the house sparrow, the English sparrow, white-throated sparrow, and they belt out that song.
But they'd be around
tops of trees.
Yeah, and they'd be around in the city a lot too, right? They're pretty common, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them down. I also live near the Yahara, and I've seen them along the Yahara quite a bit. And,
okay. Well, thank you.
And every cemetery has a chipping sparrow too.
It's the official mascot of every cemetery.
That's right.
Singing for the ages.
Yeah.
Well, good. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a kind of a weird question. So as far as spark birds go, I came to be interested in birds in a weird sort of way through the Chicago Bird Collision Monitors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I used to volunteer with them for like 8 years.
Oh.
And so I would rescue or salvage these birds that had hit the migratory birds that were hitting the skyscrapers on Saturday mornings. And it just made me develop a huge respect for these critters, and I wanted to know more about them, which is why I'm here. So, because I can't see them, because, like you said, they hide really well, at least from me, and I wanted to be able to know them better. But I was wondering if Wisconsin, like Madison, I don't even know if your buildings are. I mean, anywhere there's glass and steel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering if Madison or Milwaukee has the equivalent groups, because I know the Chicago version is under the auspices of Audubon.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure Becky can speak to that.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. It's called Bird Collision Corps. And we are also a volunteer run effort, but Madison Audubon is involved in it. We would love to have your help. It's a hard job. It's, you've done it. It's
emotional.
Not for the weak of heart. The American Family Building and the Cole Center are both particularly hard on birds. American Family has been a great partner, recognizing that they have a lot of glass and allowing people to go and collect birds and identify them. So mainly it's focused on the campus area and American Family. And most recently, we've started working with Promega also in their buildings. So, but definitely you can check our website under Bird Collision Corps. Brenna, who was on last week, is the liaison for that program. So she's going to be in a much better position to give you the information. But
yeah,
you for doing that for 8 years. That's
well, like I said, it made me fall in love with them. So
yeah,
and realize what's going on and how much wildlife comes through the city. You know, don't really know.
Yeah. So anyway, that would be great if you want to volunteer. We have a similar program. Our buildings aren't as tall or as destructive, but there's still a problem. So
well, I'm in Chicago still, but I was thinking for people who are here, and then for people I know who are up in Wisconsin. Can you tell me the name really slowly one more time?
It's just called Bird Collision Corps. I can try to get the link to the info on our website and put it in the comment here.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
All right, it's really gratifying too, even though it's hard when you find the ones who didn't make it. It's also incredibly gratifying when you find the ones who you can help and get to a vet to get them on their migration. So, in case anybody listening is interested.
Yeah, that's really, it's a good way to recognize all the impacts that humans have. It definitely is sobering because we always think about cats and habitat loss, but there's lots of other ways that birds in particular are being impacted. So that's great.
Yeah, and for, like you said, holding a cedar waxwing. You know, I mean, you do hold the birds, so it's like you do get to know them from sight, sound. So
yeah,
I don't want to bring this down because it's been so wonderful. I just was like curious. So thank you.
Well, on a slightly related note, I would encourage everybody to look at birdcast.info, birdcast.info. It shows live images of migration happening. You can get alerts to when they expect big pushes through your area. it uses radar stations to track bird migration. It's just utterly fascinating, and it shows you the immense movement that, like Bernadette was saying, just the incredible numbers of creatures that are moving through our space. Most of us not even noticing any of them, right? But now, you know, once you start paying attention, it's pretty extraordinary.
And that was birdcast.info, Carrie?
Yes, birdcast.info. There's maps. There's also alerts, and then there's some other things, forecast tools. It's a service of Cornell's Laboratory of Ornithology, similar to the site we often go to, like I was going to for sounds, the All About Birds and the Birds of the World. Those are all Cornell sites. So we're pushing up against 8 o'clock here. I personally want to thank you guys for all the recordings and the stories and all the stuff you guys did over the week, and just it was really cool to hear about and see your impressions. So I'm really grateful that you guys are interested in this stuff. I absolutely love talking about birds and listening to birds in particular. I just find the sounds and learning the sounds one of the most gratifying parts of birding. So I hope everybody can just keep at it, learn one bird at a time. Don't get overwhelmed, and it'll all start to gel. I promise.
Thanks, Carrie. And next week you will be getting a course evaluation, more for the feedback. So any suggestions that you might have, not expecting to do this virtual next year, but you never know how things will be going. And there are definite advantages to the virtual, like being able to replay those sounds to point them out, which you can't do when you're just standing on the trail and the bird's gone.
And having people from Chicago and Green Bay and from all these far-flung places.
So those are the good aspects of Zoom meetings. So thank you all for coming.
Bye-bye now. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.